It was a warm and quiet Saturday night, June 6, 1992, in Springfield, Missouri. Three women, a mother, her daughter, and her daughter's best friend, settled in for the night after a long day of celebrations. By the next morning, they were gone without a trace. No screams heard. No signs of struggle visible from the outside. Just an eerie stillness that would become the center of one of America's most haunting mysteries.
Suzie Streeter, Stacy McCall, and Sherrill Levitt, three names forever intertwined by an invisible tragedy. In the blink of an eye, they vanished from a modest suburban home in the heart of America. No goodbyes, no warning. Only an unsettling emptiness that would leave police, family, and an entire community desperate for answers. Suzie Streeter, 19 years old, was full of life. A bright, strong-willed young woman with a fierce loyalty to her friends and family. She had just graduated from Kickapoo High School hours earlier, standing proud in her cap and gown. Her plans were ambitious: cosmetology school, a career, independence. Suzie was known for her laughter, her love of animals, and the fierce bond she shared with her mother, Sherrill.
Stacy McCall, 18, was Suzie's close friend and constant companion. She was cheerful, soft-spoken, and deeply family-oriented, the kind of girl who always made sure to call home. Sherrill Levitt, 47, was a hard-working single mother who had spent years building a stable life for herself and her daughter after a painful divorce. Their lives were filled with hope and new beginnings, until that night when everything changed forever. The evening of June 6th was a celebration of new beginnings. Suzie and Stacy, like hundreds of other teenagers, walked across the graduation stage, stepping proudly into adulthood. After the ceremony, they spent the evening at various parties, laughing, taking pictures, and making plans for the summer ahead. Originally, they had intended to stay at a friend's house, but a last-minute change of plans led them to Suzie's home instead. A decision that would prove fateful.
Around 2 a.m., Suzie, Stacy, and Sherrill were believed to be safely inside the cozy single-story house at 1717 East Delmar Street. Their shoes were neatly by the door. Their beds appeared unslept in. The next morning, friends arrived to pick them up for a planned trip to a water park. But instead of excitement, they found silence. The house looked normal, but it felt wrong. Phones rang unanswered. The three women had simply vanished. Inside the house, everything appeared eerily untouched. The women's purses were lined up together in the living room. Stacy's newly purchased graduation clothes were still folded neatly, never worn. The TV was left on, quietly humming static into the empty rooms. Even Sherrill's beloved dog, a small Yorkie named Cinnamon, was inside, distressed but unharmed. It was as if they had stepped out for a moment and simply evaporated into thin air.
The only visible sign that something was amiss was a broken globe light on the front porch. Tiny shards of glass sprinkled the concrete, as if a brief struggle had occurred outside. But there was no blood, no drag marks, no signs of forced entry. Neighbors reported nothing unusual. No screams, no suspicious vehicles. Whatever happened to Suzie, Stacy, and Sherrill had happened silently, under the cover of an ordinary night. When police finally arrived, critical time had already been lost. Friends and family, in their frantic concern, had entered the house repeatedly, unknowingly disturbing potential evidence. Fingerprints were smudged, objects were moved. Despite this, detectives quickly realized this wasn't a case of runaway teenagers or a family argument. Something far darker had occurred behind those walls.
Posters with the women's faces blanketed Springfield almost overnight. Televised pleas from devastated loved ones flooded local news. Volunteers combed parks, forests, abandoned lots. Anywhere three women could have been taken. The FBI was called in. Psychics offered visions. Hotlines buzzed with tips. But for every lead investigators chased, they found themselves hitting another dead end, as if the women had been swallowed by the earth itself. As weeks turned into months, theories began to swirl like a thick fog over Springfield. Some believed the women had been abducted by someone they knew, someone they trusted enough to open the door late at night. Others speculated about a random break-in, a violent stranger lurking in the shadows. Whispers of human trafficking, serial killers, and organized crime echoed across town, feeding a growing sense of fear and helplessness.
A few theories bordered on the bizarre. Had the women stumbled upon something they weren't supposed to see? Were they hidden beneath the very foundations of the town they once called home? Every idea seemed possible, yet none could be proven. With each passing day, the mystery deepened, and hope began to slip further and further away. In December 1992, 6 months after the disappearance, a strange call came into the America's Most Wanted tip line. The man on the phone claimed to know where the women's bodies were buried, underneath the concrete foundation of a new hospital parking garage in Springfield. The caller was frantic, insisting that time was running out. But before investigators could trace the call, he abruptly hung up, vanishing just as mysteriously as the women had.
Detectives took the tip seriously, but tearing up an expensive parking structure required more than just a hunch. Without solid evidence, they couldn't get permission to dig. Even today, some locals believe the truth, and the women lie entombed beneath tons of concrete, hidden in plain sight. But without proof, it remains just one chilling theory among many. The disappearance of the Springfield Three shattered the town's sense of safety. Parents locked their doors tighter. Teens stopped wandering the streets after dark. Neighborhoods that once buzzed with evening chatter grew silent and watchful. A quiet paranoia settled over Springfield, a feeling that even the heart of small-town America could hide terrible secrets.
For the families, the pain never faded. Birthdays passed, anniversaries passed. Hope flickered, died, and flickered again. Sherrill's son, Bart Streeter, struggled with guilt and grief for years, wondering if he could have prevented the tragedy somehow. Stacy's family kept her memory alive, refusing to let the world forget the bright, smiling girl who should have had a lifetime ahead of her. And Springfield itself. It would never be the same again. Over the years, dozens of leads were investigated, but none led to a breakthrough. The case was officially closed in 1997, but the disappearance of Suzie, Stacy, and Sherrill remains an open wound for those who knew them. The women's families continue to live with unanswered questions, haunted by the silence of that fateful night. Newspapers occasionally report on the case, but as time goes on, fewer people seem to care, until a new theory or a fresh lead gives the case a brief resurgence in the public eye.
In the absence of concrete answers, speculation and theories have continued to flourish. Some believe there may have been a connection to a local serial killer. Others suspect the involvement of organized crime. There are even rumors of a cult operating in the area at the time. But no one knows for sure. The Springfield Three case is now one of the most infamous unsolved disappearances in American history, still leaving behind more questions than answers. The families of Suzie, Stacy, and Sherrill still hold on to hope, even after all these years. There are moments when they think they've found a clue, a piece of evidence that could finally bring them the answers they've desperately searched for. But each time, they are met with disappointment. Even with the passage of time, the pain of the unknown never fully fades. The haunting questions remain. What happened that night? Who was responsible? And why were these three women chosen to disappear without a trace?
While the case remains unsolved, the memory of Suzie, Stacy, and Sherrill lives on in the hearts of their loved ones. Their faces are still displayed on posters, their stories shared among strangers who feel the weight of their loss. The hope for justice and closure lingers, no matter how elusive it may seem. And so, the mystery of the Springfield Three continues. Unresolved, but never forgotten.